One of the things our readings this weekend are trying to communicate to us is that Satan is real, evil is real, sin is real. We see it in our gospel, how the reign of Satan will come to an end. We see it in our first reading from Genesis, how the reign of Satan began in the very beginning of creation. God created the heavens and the earth, and he created everything in it, and then he created Adam, and Adam had dominion over the land, but Adam was still alone. And God saw that aloneness, and he created Eve so that the two would be complementary and they would be a helper to each other. And in this creation of Adam and Eve, God pointed out to them in the garden, said, "You could do everything you want, eat, do whatever you please. But the only thing, don't eat from this tree." So Adam and Eve, they lived their life in the garden and they would walk around the garden day after day, and they probably saw that tree and they were reminded of what God told them. Do not eat from this tree. And so every day they chose not to eat from that tree. But then what happened? The serpent comes, Satan disguising himself, and he tempts them. Satan is a liar. Satan is a deceiver. So he deceives them. He says to Adam and Eve, "Did God really tell you not to eat from this tree?" They're like, "Yes, that's what God said." "Well, that's not really what God meant. You can eat from the tree. There's nothing wrong with that." And so Adam and Eve had that choice in that moment. Do they listen and remember what God told them, or do they listen to the serpent who's right in front of them? And Adam and Eve take the fruit of that tree and they eat it. And instantly, immediately, they experienced deep regret. They realized what they had done was wrong. Instantly, they felt shame. And then God the Father was walking in the garden. He was approaching them. They didn't want to see God the Father, and so they went and they hid behind a bush. But God the Father, he calls out for them. "Where are you?" he says. God the Father could have went right there. He could have found them and addressed them in that spot. But instead he calls out, "Where are you?" He's inviting them. He wants them to make this movement towards him. And so they come out from behind the bush and they admit to God, "This is what we've done. We ate from the tree. We know you told us not to, but we did it anyways." And then what they do is that God banishes them from the garden. He says, "You shouldn't know this. You shouldn't know that you're naked and shame. It only comes from eating the tree." But really, what Adam and Eve do, they hide in the garden. Isn't that what you and we hide from God at times? We are sinners. Sin has entered into our life. And sometimes we commit these sins, and like them, we immediately feel regret. "Lord, why did I do this? Why did I say this?" And so we hide a little bit from God. Could be we hide from God on a Sunday. I can't go to mass. I'm unworthy. I've done these things. God doesn't love me anymore. So I'm going to hide behind this bush in my life. I'm not going to grace the presence of the church with mine. So we hide from God in that regard. Maybe we hide from God because we stop praying our rosaries, or we stop saying our morning or our evening prayer, but we stop praying. That's what happens. We hide from God and we don't want to communicate with him. But the good news is, our psalm told us, with the Lord there is fullness of mercy and redemption. And so there is forgiveness. It's the story of the incarnation, that God the Father sends his son Jesus to be born of the Virgin Mary. And God the Son then seeks out so many people throughout his public ministry. He seeks out the sinner. He calls them to follow him. He seeks them out and he forgives their sin. And then he says, go and sin no more. And so Jesus has come to seek us when we're hiding. And in a sense, that as Satan conquered the earth by the fall of Adam and Eve through a tree, Jesus will conquer Satan on a tree as he's crucified on the cross. And the way that you and we come out of our hiding and we experience that mercy and forgiveness of the Lord is through the sacrament of reconciliation. That the Lord calls out to us in our life. He says, where are you? He wants us back. And we're hiding. And so we come out from behind the bush and we go to confession and we tell the Lord, this is what I've done. And then the Lord forgives us. There's mercy and redemption and a new beginning with God. I think what God wants us to do this weekend is for us to stop hiding from him because of whatever we've done. And he wants us to come out from behind the bush, and he wants us to run into the arms of Jesus and to hear him say those words to us, you are forgiven.